On a cold autumn evening, thick fog was covering the streets of London. The yellow lights of the old lamps were shining weakly through the mist, and people were hurrying home before the rain started again. Near the River Thames, Detective Oliver Grant was walking slowly toward his office while he was thinking about his latest cases. Most of them were simple robberies or small crimes, but Oliver was hoping for something more challenging. As he was opening the door to his office, he noticed a woman standing near the stairs. She was wearing a dark green coat and holding a black umbrella tightly in her hands. Her face looked pale and worried. "Are you Detective Grant?" she asked quietly. "Yes, I am," Oliver replied. "Please come inside." The woman entered the office carefully while Oliver was lighting a small lamp on his desk. The room was old and crowded with books, papers, and photographs from previous investigations. "My name is Eleanor Whitmore," the woman explained. "I need your help. My brother disappeared 3 days ago." Oliver invited her to sit down while he was preparing some tea. "Tell me everything," he said calmly. Eleanor took a deep breath. "My brother, Henry, worked at the British Museum. On Monday evening, he left work as usual, but he never arrived home. At first, I thought he was busy, but yesterday I received this." She handed Oliver a small envelope. Inside, there was a single piece of paper with a strange message written in blue ink. "The Raven knows the truth." Oliver looked at the sentence carefully. "Did Henry have enemies?" he asked. "Not that I know of," Eleanor answered. "He was quiet and intelligent. He spent most of his time studying ancient history." Oliver nodded slowly while he was examining the paper again. Something about the message felt strange. The handwriting looked nervous, almost rushed. "Did your brother mention anyone called Raven?" Oliver continued. Eleanor shook her head. "No. But 2 weeks ago, Henry told me that he had discovered something unusual at the museum. He seemed excited, but also frightened." That detail immediately caught Oliver's attention. The next morning, heavy rain was falling over London while Oliver was walking toward the British Museum. Inside the enormous building, visitors were moving quietly through the galleries, admiring ancient statues and priceless treasures. A tall man with silver glasses greeted Oliver near the entrance. "I'm Professor Samuel Reed," he said. "I understand you're investigating Henry Whitmore's disappearance." "Yes," Oliver replied. "I would like to ask a few questions." Professor Reed guided him into Henry's office. The small room was filled with books and maps. Several papers were lying across the desk, and a half-finished cup of coffee was standing near the window. Henry was researching an ancient Roman artifact, the professor explained. A black metal box that was discovered last month during an excavation near northern England. Oliver looked around carefully while Professor Reed was speaking. "Did Henry seem worried recently?" Oliver asked. The professor hesitated for a moment. "Yes," he admitted finally. "A few days before he disappeared, he told me someone was following him." Oliver's eyes narrowed. "Did he say who?" "No." He refused to explain. While Oliver was searching through the papers on the desk, he discovered a notebook hidden beneath several old documents. Most of the pages contained notes about Roman symbols and ancient legends, but one page contained something different. "Raven Society, meeting at Blackwood Station, Thursday midnight." Oliver immediately checked his watch. Thursday was tonight. Late that evening, the fog returned to London. Blackwood Station was old and nearly abandoned. Only a few trains stopped there during the night, and most passengers avoided the area because of its terrible reputation. Oliver arrived shortly before midnight. Rainwater was dripping from the broken roof while distant thunder echoed through the empty station. He stood behind a large stone pillar, watching carefully. A few minutes later, 3 figures entered the station. They were wearing long dark coats, and one of them was carrying a leather case. Oliver listened closely while they were speaking. "Did you bring the artifact?" one man asked. "Yes," another replied. "But Whitmore caused problems before he disappeared." Oliver felt his heart beating faster. "Where is he now?" the first man demanded. "He's safe," the second answered coldly. "For now." Suddenly, Oliver stepped forward. "Police," he shouted. "Don't move." The men reacted immediately. One of them grabbed a leather case and started running toward the railway tracks. Another man pushed Oliver violently against the wall while the third disappeared into the fog. Oliver quickly recovered and chased the man with the case. The station was dangerously slippery because of the rain, and trains were passing nearby with deafening noise. The suspect jumped across the tracks while Oliver was following closely behind him. Finally, near an abandoned storage building, The man slipped and fell heavily onto the wet ground. Oliver pointed his revolver at him. "It's over," he said firmly. The man slowly raised his hands. Back at the police station, the suspect finally revealed the truth. His name was Victor Hale, a member of a secret criminal group called the Raven Society. For years, the organization had been stealing valuable historical objects and selling them illegally to wealthy collectors around the world. But why kidnap Henry Whitmore? Oliver asked. Victor looked down silently before answering. Because he discovered our operation. He recognized one of our members at the museum. "Where is Henry now?" Oliver demanded. Victor hesitated again. "He's being held in an old house near Greenwich Park." Within an hour, Oliver and several police officers were driving through the wet London streets toward Greenwich. The storm was becoming stronger, and tree branches were moving wildly in the wind. The old house stood alone near the edge of the park. Its windows were dark, and the garden looked abandoned. Oliver signaled the officers quietly while they were surrounding the building. Then they entered. Inside, the house smelled of dust and smoke. Footsteps echoed through the narrow hallways while officers searched every room carefully. Finally, Oliver heard a weak voice coming from upstairs. "Help." He rushed toward the sound and found Henry Whitmore locked inside a small bedroom. His hands were tied, but he appeared unharmed. Oliver quickly untied him. "Are you all right?" he asked. Henry nodded tiredly. "Yes, I think so." "What happened?" Henry sat down slowly while the officers continued searching the house. "I discovered that several museum artifacts were disappearing," he explained. "At first, I thought it was a mistake. But then I noticed secret markings on some shipping documents. When I confronted one of the workers, he attacked me." "Victor Hale?" Oliver asked. Henry nodded. "He and the others kidnapped me before I could contact the police." As they were leaving the house, police officers arrested 2 more members of the Raven Society who were hiding in the basement. The next morning, newspapers across London were reporting the story of the mysterious criminal organization and the detective who stopped them. Oliver was sitting quietly in his office while the rain finally began to disappear outside. Eleanor Whitmore arrived carrying a small box of chocolates. "You saved my brother," she said gratefully. "I don't know how to thank you." Oliver smiled modestly. "It was my job." Henry himself visited later that afternoon. Although he still looked tired, he seemed much calmer. "There's something else you should know," Henry said while he was looking out the window. "The black Roman box they stole. It wasn't valuable because of gold or jewels." Oliver raised an eyebrow. "Then why was it important?" Henry opened his bag carefully and removed an old photograph. "Because inside the box, there was a map." "A map to what?" Henry smiled slightly. "To another hidden Roman treasure somewhere beneath London." For a moment, the room became completely silent. Outside, the city was slowly returning to normal. Buses were moving through the crowded streets, people were rushing to work, and the fog was disappearing above the River Thames. But Oliver Grant knew one thing clearly. This mystery was far from finished.